the hit that took down Limpopo's most wanted gang leader, Masipala. It was just after 2:30 a.m. on April 28, 2023, when Limpopo was shaken by the sound of gunfire near the popular Thavani Mall. A silver sedan, parked outside a small roadside restaurant along the R524, suddenly lit up with flashes of gunfire. Inside that car sat one of Limpopo's most feared men, Thivalili Vincent Hlungwani, better known on the streets as Masipala or simply General. The 32-year-old was with a young woman, believed to be a 27-year-old prosecutor from Polokwane. Moments before the ambush, the two were reportedly enjoying themselves at a high-end pub in Shayandama, laughing and drinking like it was just another night. But that night would be his last. When they left the pub, it's believed unknown assailants followed them in the shadows. Surveillance cameras caught glimpses of a dark vehicle trailing behind their car. They were just about to step out of the vehicle when chaos erupted. Over 20 bullets were sprayed directly into the driver's side door, using what police say was a high-caliber rifle. There was no time to escape, no chance to fight back. Masipala died instantly, slumped over the steering wheel, while the woman beside him was also declared dead at the scene. Shockwaves rippled through Thohoyandou and the broader Limpopo area. Some residents say it felt like a movie scene, an execution straight out of a gangster film. For others, it was the end of a long reign of fear. But one thing was clear. Someone wanted Masipala gone, and they wanted to make a statement. Before he became a name whispered in fear, Thivalili Vincent Hlungwani was just another young man from Muldain. Locals say he had a quiet childhood, but something changed in his late teens. By the time he was in his 20s, he was already moving in the company of known criminals. After the sudden death of notorious gang leader Arnaud Mado, known as the leader of the Jerusalema/BMF gang, Masipala stepped into the power vacuum. Arnaud's death in a mysterious car crash in 2022 left many questions, but even more fear as Masipala quickly rose through the ranks. Rumors spread that he took over operations that included armed robberies, hijackings, and extortion. People claimed he had dozens of men under his command, and that police feared crossing him. In 2021, another BMF leader, Naladzani Manyai, was found dead in the bushes, shot execution style. The streets believed it was a gang war, brother turning on brother for control and dominance. Masipala's name was often linked to these events, though no charges ever stuck. His family insisted he was just a misunderstood man who helped his community. But others whispered that he was behind several disappearances in Limpopo. When asked about his reputation, some locals just shook their heads in silence. His presence at events was rare but always guarded, and rumors of police informants being silenced were common. His enemies called him a ghost, hard to track, impossible to touch. Until the night of April 28, 2023, when the ghost met his end in a spray of bullets. The aftermath of Masipala's killing left Limpopo in a state of tension and silence. Law enforcement arrived quickly at the scene, but answers were few. The vehicle was riddled with bullet holes, blood soaked the seats, and witnesses were nowhere to be found. Investigators were tight-lipped, only confirming that both victims died on the spot. The identity of the woman next to Masipala remains officially unconfirmed, but insiders say she worked in the Polokwane justice system. If true, that detail sent shivers through the community. Had she been targeted too, or was she simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? Police began to quietly question known associates, but fear kept most mouths shut. Even Masipala's close allies claimed they knew nothing. At his family's home, the mood was grim. His father, Advocate Nsako Hlungwani, told reporters they were heartbroken and afraid. "We don't know what happened. We don't feel safe," he said, standing beside grieving relatives. No arrests have been made, and no suspects have been publicly identified. But Limpopo residents say this was no random shooting, it was a message. Whoever killed Masipala did it with military precision and chilling intent. The king of Limpopo's underground had fallen, and his blood stained more than just the pavement. It soaked into the history of a province ruled for too long by silence and fear. In the days following the assassination, fear wrapped tightly around Muldain and the nearby townships. No one wanted to speak openly about Masipala's murder, especially not about who might be responsible. Yet, behind closed doors, one word kept surfacing: revenge. Many believed this wasn't just a hit, it was payback. Limpopo's underworld had been boiling for years with turf wars, betrayal, and bloodshed. Masipala had made enemies during his rise to the top of the BMF, and not all of them had forgotten. Rumors swirled that he had double-crossed a former ally in a multi-million rand cash-in-transit job. Others suggested it was tied to drugs, that a deal had gone wrong, and someone wanted him silenced for good. Gang experts noted the precision of the shooting hinted at military-style training or a rival gang with heavy connections. This wasn't a street fight. It was surgical, planned, and deliberate. It bore the hallmarks of vengeance from someone equally powerful and calculated. Police quietly acknowledged they were investigating possible gang retaliation. But in communities like Shyandama and Makwarila, people knew better than to talk to the cops. Eyes watched from windows, but lips stayed shut. If Masipala, once untouchable, could be killed in public like that, then no one was safe. The streets went quiet, not with peace, but with fear of what was coming next. Days turned into weeks, yet no one was arrested for the murder of Thivalili Hlungwani. Police maintained that investigations were ongoing, but insiders admitted they had little to work with. The getaway vehicle had no license plates, and shell casings had no fingerprints. Surveillance footage near Thavani Mall showed little. Whoever pulled off the hit had done their homework. Limpopo's most wanted man had been eliminated, but now the focus turned to who might fill the void he left behind. Tensions began to rise in the Black Mafia family ranks, with whispers of power struggles and internal distrust. Some members vanished from their usual hangouts, fearing they might be next. Even street-level criminals were on edge, unsure whether to stay loyal to the old crew or flee entirely. In the midst of this, Masipala's funeral was held under tight security. Armed guards watched over mourners, and attendees wore blank expressions, as if mourning was too risky to show. His father, still shaken, gave a short speech urging peace, but even he knew that plea would fall on deaf ears. Journalists were kept at a distance, warned by unknown men not to record too closely. Local pastors called for an end to gang violence, while the police presence in Thohoyandou increased. But violence doesn't disappear with a single death, especially not a man like Masipala. Instead, Limpopo held its breath, waiting for the next move in this deadly silence. And in that silence, danger brewed. While the streets stayed quiet, attention shifted to the identity of the woman killed beside Masipala. Investigators soon uncovered that she was indeed connected to the legal world, a junior prosecutor stationed in Polokwane. Her name was withheld from the public, but the implications of her death raised serious questions. Was she dating Masipala willingly, or had she been coerced into his world? Was she leaking information to him, or was she simply collateral damage? These questions stirred unease within the Limpopo justice community. The possibility that a gangster of Masipala's stature had access to someone inside the courts was deeply troubling. It hinted at corruption, blackmail, or perhaps a secret relationship that crossed dangerous lines. Officials inside the National Prosecuting Authority were said to be reviewing cases tied to her, checking for irregularities. Meanwhile, her family remained silent, refusing to speak to reporters or investigators. Those who knew her said she was quiet, professional, and seemed far from the world of gangs and crime. But her presence next to Masipala on that deadly night couldn't be ignored. Whether victim or accomplice, her death added a layer of mystery to an already dark story. Inside courtrooms across the province, her colleagues moved cautiously, wondering how deep the connections went. Some began requesting additional protection, worried that the justice system itself might be compromised. And all the while, the killer, or killers, of both Masipala and the woman remained free, somewhere in the shadows of Limpopo's criminal underworld. Here are chapters 7, 8, and 9 of the hit that took down Limpopo's most wanted gang leader, Masipala, each with 15 full sentences, rich in detail and based on the true events you've provided. The story continues in a factual, true crime narrative tone in simple, clear English. By mid-May 2023, Limpopo police were under immense pressure to solve the double murder. Not just because of Masipala's criminal reputation, but because of the questions surrounding the young woman who died beside him. Community groups held candlelight vigils demanding answers, while anonymous sources hinted that more bloodshed was on the horizon. A retired detective told reporters, off-record, that Masipala had too many enemies to count. He left behind a blood trail dating back years, linked unofficially to a string of unsolved robberies, kidnappings, and contract killings. Some victims were found dumped in rivers, others never found at all. His enemies, too, were not the forgiving type. Many suspected the hit was carried out by a rival gang seeking revenge for past betrayals. A well-known gang figure in Zelil, who asked not to be named, said, "This was a long time coming. People forget that Masipala hurt a lot of people on his way up." Yet the absence of suspects or witnesses raised the question. Were people staying quiet out of loyalty or fear? Investigators admitted that many who knew Masipala were now in hiding. They feared not only retribution, but also the return of chaos if his death sparked another gang war. Still, forensic reports confirmed one thing. The weapon used was a military-grade rifle, most likely an R5. Whoever killed Masipala had access to firepower beyond what's common in street crime. And that fact alone sent ripples through both law enforcement and the criminal world. At the Hlungwani home in Muldane, grief and fear hung in the air like smoke. Though many feared and hated Masipala, his family remembered him differently. To his father, Advocate Nsako Hlungwani, he was still Vincent, a son who had lost his way. During a brief interview outside their gate, ADV, Hlungwani said, No matter what people say, he was my child. We are heartbroken and scared. The family's home was being watched, not just by reporters, but possibly by people who had unfinished business with Masipola. Community members whispered about the risk of retaliation, or worse, more assassinations. Even extended family members were advised to stay low, fearing they might be next in a cycle of blood. Funeral arrangements had to be guarded by private security. While the event went ahead peacefully, the tension was thick, with attendees scanning the crowd for threats. His mother remained indoors throughout, too distraught to face the public. Family friends described her as shattered, having begged Vincent to leave the gangster life many times. He said he was done, that he wanted to go straight, one woman said tearfully. But if Masipola had plans to escape his criminal past, it was too late. The law may not have caught him, but someone else did, with 20 bullets to prove it. And now, his loved ones were left behind, questioning who they could trust, and whether they would ever truly be safe again. His name still echoed in Limpopo, not as a warning, but as a legacy carved in violence. To understand why the killing of Masipola shook Limpopo so deeply, you have to look beyond his crimes and into the aura he carried. On the streets of Thohoyandou and Cheyandama, his name wasn't just feared, it was respected. Many young men looked up to him, not because of his morals, but because he had power and money in a place where both are scarce. He drove luxury vehicles, wore designer clothes, and was rumored to control business operations from construction tenders to car theft rings. Those who worked under him said he demanded loyalty and gave back when it suited him. He was known to pay bail for friends, fund community soccer teams, and hand out groceries during election seasons. This blend of fear and generosity made him a complex figure, half gangster, half local hero. Some saw him as Limpopo's own Robin Hood. Others called him a snake in expensive shoes. Police files painted a darker picture, filled with pages of suspected offenses: assault, illegal firearms, racketeering. But none of those charges stuck. Every time he was arrested, he walked free, often with a grin on his face. Whether through legal skill or behind-the-scenes influence, Masipola stayed untouchable for years. That invincibility fed his myth. And so, when he was gunned down in a parked car with no chance to defend himself, it sent a clear message. Even kings can be executed. And in Limpopo's criminal circles, the crown now lay soaked in blood, waiting for the next man bold enough to wear it.